Welcome back to another episode of the Tip Share. This week, we're going to cover the best tips for strategic vendor management. If you're new to the restaurant business, you've probably heard about strategic vendor management, but aren't exactly sure what it entails. Well-experienced business owners in the field know it's absolutely critical for maximizing not only just ROI, but also the relationships and connections that make every day in a restaurant run smoothly. Now, you might be asking, what is vendor management and which issues pose significant challenges if vendors aren't properly managed? We've created this guide to answer all your questions and provide guidance for optimal vendor management best practices. Let's jump in. So, what is vendor management? Many restaurant owners, particularly those new to the field, struggle to understand vendor management and its importance to long-term success. Think of vendor management as the ultimate behind-the-scenes hack to streamline your entire operation. Some management tasks, such as managing payroll or employee work schedules, are easy to recognize. But the vendor management process is often overlooked and underappreciated aspect of running a restaurant. Strategic vendor management maximizes the processes and relationships between your restaurant and your suppliers, vendors, and other procurement partners. Some vital elements of vendor management best practices include risk mitigation, food cost control, optimal customer service and product placement, ultimately delivering great value and an unforgettable dining experience to your customers. How subpar strategic vendor management can harm your restaurant operations. Are you using your vendor relationship management strategy, or is it using you? Poor vendor management processes negatively impact everything from customer service all the way down to your bottom line. Here are some challenges restaurant operators face without vendor management best practices in place. Supply chain issues. If operators aren't adaptable, especially when major crises are occurring with the supply chain disruptions, procurement problems are sure to surface. Bad contracts. Contract negotiation is the bedrock of any well-run strategic vendor management system. Without solid data to illustrate your side of the story, it's going to be hard to leverage contracts in your favor. Haphazard scheduling. Unrealistic deadlines and delivery times are just two areas that negatively impact your vendor management process. And many issues are a domino effect. For example, without an accurate accounting system in place, it's easy to misfire with deadlines and procurement. Unreliable relationships. For your strategic vendor management to really take off, you have to take the time to cultivate those meaningful relationships. True vendor management should focus on both ends of the spectrum. From a restaurant owner's perspective, that means their own business and their suppliers. When you don't look at vendors as strategic partners in a mutually beneficial dynamic, your restaurant will never realize the true potential of strategic vendor management. Some advantages of sound vendor management processes include things like the following. Complete financial picture. The restaurant financial cycle, spend, usage, ordering, inventory, etc., requires full transparency to make the best possible business decisions. With the complete picture in place, it's easier to evaluate and tweak your vendor relationships, which is necessary in today's environment thanks to the fluidity of commodity prices. Sound spending practices. Which vendors are helping and which are hurting? It's easier with a VMS, vendor management system, that encourages weekly performance monitoring of cash management and other key analytics. RASI's vendor spending tool puts spending fluctuations in context, allowing superior management of a single and multi-unit enterprises. Expansion of preferred vendor supplier lists. With inflation, tightening credit, and other challenges for procurement specialists, it's wise to have a vendor management process that thrive in a fluid, constantly changing environment. RASI assists with auditing and negotiating prime vendor agreements while performing market basket analysis on current suppliers. This program targets optimal deals and contracts from existing suppliers within a larger network. A win-win for you and your suppliers. So now you might be asking, what are the vendor management best practices? Well, the key to a well-run VMS begins with all the active participants using the system as it's intended. It's difficult to gauge a strategic vendor management system as a singular entity. The important thing is for everyone to be comfortable using all the tools and applications as they should. That said, here are some tips to ensure your vendor management structure works best. Document results regularly. As we mentioned above, data analytics establishes a firm foundation for your employees to understand which particular dynamics of vendor management need to be adjusted. We suggest weekly reporting to provide regular, consistent vendor management analytics. Customize those contracts. The extra legwork and research really does pay off here. In order to optimize your contracts, you're going to need to come to the table with institutional knowledge of your spend performance. This way, you already have the data ready to create more profitable agreements moving forward. Lastly, you gotta foster relationships with vendors built on trust. Vendor management is, in many ways, a meet-me-halfway compromise. RASI's world-class accounting solutions and other restaurant operational resources enable you to cement long-lasting, trusting relationships with all your key procurement associates, because you can always trust RASI to lead the way with on-point analytical tools and accounting resources. That's it for this week's episode of the Tip Share. We hope you got a lot out of this episode on strategic vendor management. As always, we'll see you next week. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thanks.